I'm a short person. I better put this down. Good morning. I'm Sheryl Goldberg. I'm the Training Institute Coordinator for Michigan Association for Infant Mental Health. And I'm going to talk to you today about the baby. What about the baby? I'm here this morning to offer one answer for you. Babies' physical and mental health, their development and well-being depend upon their early attachments. This is a fact which should be obvious and supported by plenty of research. However, our policies and practices don't necessarily reflect this wisdom. It's human nature to relate most easily to what we know from our personal lives, right? I was a baby once. I assume you all probably were too, right? Okay. Few of us have more than just scant memories, though, that we can recall from our 3 years, but there is memory there. It's encoded in our bodies and in our brains, and it will show up later when we become parents ourselves. The strong sense of self that comes when our needs are being met over and over again by someone that we love, mismatches and all, allow us to develop the basic trust, which is the underpinning of a secure attachment relationship. So there are babies in our communities, we know, we've heard about them. There are plenty of them, whose early experiences are of much less consistent care, despite their parents' love. In my 30-plus years of work in the field of infant mental health, I've met many of them, and I've heard about many when supervising other infant mental health specialists. I want to tell you about one of these babies that I followed for over a year and a half in consultation, and then I will speak to you about what we can and should learn from his story. Seth, baby Seth, was a full-term infant born to his teen parents, Amanda and Luke. Despite this being an unplanned pregnancy, Amanda and Luke, who each lived with their own parents, took advantage of almost every single education, promotion, and prevention service available in their community during pregnancy and after Seth's birth. Here's a brief list. Well, first, even though they were late to care, they began their OBGYN appointments at about 20 weeks. They enrolled in WIC for supplemental nutrition. They took childbirth classes together. They attended parent support groups, parent education and networking events. They received weekly parents as teachers, prevention home visiting, and the maternal infant health program, which is another prevention home visiting program staffed by nurses, dietitians, and social workers. They both stayed in high school for a time. Luke refused the male mentored fathering program and outpatient counseling for depression. But he did move into the home with Amanda, her mother, and Seth during his first year of life, when he was kicked out of his parents' home for using drugs. So the early months of Seth's life were a struggle for the young parents and the family. Community providers offering services as well as other family members were noting that verbal reminders were required to change Seth's diapers, to feed him, to respond to his cries, or play with him. Otherwise, Seth's needs would be unmet. Amanda's mother was becoming increasingly overwhelmed as it became clear that Amanda and Luke were not growing more confident or more competent in his care. And her offer to care for him during the day while they were in school was turning into her becoming his primary caregiver all of the time. She was already struggling to manage, and she was getting angry. By the time Seth was 3.5 months old, everyone's concern escalated. Amanda had a black eye at the last nurse's visit, and Seth was being neglected. There were multiple Child Protective Services referrals made in the next few months. An early on referral was also made for Seth's developmental assessment. Vision problems were identified, as well as slight delays in all developmental areas. Not too surprising. More specialized intervention was needed to support Seth's early attachments, and an infant mental health services referral was made. Among other concerns, the infant mental health specialist identified troubled family relationships and history, unresolved trauma, and significant depression for both parents, as well as Seth's state of consistent irritability. And she observed that no one in the home was able to soothe him successfully. The atmosphere of toxic stress in the home was palatable. So let's fast forward. The infant mental health specialist started visiting Seth and his family twice each week. She established a trusting relationship with the family, which allowed her to focus her attention on helping Seth's parents identify his needs. Note this, just seeing his needs had to be the first goal. After a time with support, they were able to respond in this way to this question: what would Seth tell you if he had words? He'd say, change my diaper sooner, play on the floor with me, read to me every day, feed me when I'm hungry, put on my glasses each day, give me more attention, put down your videos and your iPhones when I'm awake and I want to play. This was an important early step. And there may be many reasons why parents can't recognize their child's needs. We know this. Amanda and Luke, though, first needed to just see his needs before they could respond to them. Well, important questions arise here, I think. Why was Seth's family unable to apply the knowledge that they gained from the quality education and prevention home visiting programs involved to improve their parenting? And why couldn't they see so much of what he needed? I think this notion of not seeing can be a hard one for us to wrap our minds around, to understand. And it can make us anxious to witness it, because maybe it reminds us of the baby that we all once were. But for this family, the answer had to do with many painful experiences not yet shared, some not yet even fully acknowledged, in addition to their youth, of course. A history of neglect has a way of infiltrating into the next generation. Education and support alone can't always overcome these issues. Seth's parents did use the infant mental health home visits to try and improve the health of their own relationship. They broke up, however, and with Luke's disengagement from the family, Seth's behavior showed increasing aggression and tantrums. It was hard for everyone, including the infant mental health specialist, to acknowledge that Luke was gone. But Amanda began to talk about her trauma, her emotional pain, and her own unmet needs. She used her working relationship with the infant mental health specialist. She felt seen and heard and understood, and increased her understanding of herself and the impact of all that she had lived through to this date. And in turn, she was able to become Seth's mother, really. She could then also use those treatment sessions to practice reaching out to him and offering the relationship that he needed, which everyone has wanted. As the work came to a close and the infant mental health specialist guided reflection about their work together, Amanda wrote down what she had learned and could observe herself doing. And this is a quote: kiss him, read to him, cuddle with him, play with him, give him choices, name his emotions, stay close to him, talk about what I am doing, talk about what he is doing. So what's important about this story? I tell this story to remind us all that babies and their relationships and experiences matter, and I also tell this story because Seth's experience is representative of many. Some laden with even more stressors, some with fewer supports, some with fewer strengths. But this baby and his family needed this intervention of infant mental health home visiting so that a therapy that focused on the parent-infant relationship and the barriers to the health of that relationship could be addressed. I hope that any program that touches the lives of parents and their very young children offers their services in a way that supports early relationships and grows parent competency. But remember, while prevention services and education services addressed many needs for Seth and his family, they were still not equipped to adequately address the way his parents' deep emotional scars, trauma, and toxic stress would disrupt the relationship they had with their baby. The infant mental health practice methods have been used in Michigan's community mental health system since 1980, when they were the first of their kind to be introduced into community mental health. There are now many infant mental health specialists doing this work in our state, and growing numbers around the country who look to Michigan for leadership in the infant mental health workforce development for both infant mental health specialists and the wider infant family field. This action is what I hope you take away from this talk. First, infancy, including the mental health of infants, toddlers, and their parents, is of utmost importance. The first 3 years are as deserving of attention and resources as the preschool years. Second, a continuum of services for infants, toddlers, and families is critical. Raising babies is not a one-size-fits-all scenario. Some families need help with basic needs, with health concerns, or overcoming the ghosts of neglect, trauma, abuse, or sometimes it's all of these and more. An accessible array of prevention, intervention, and treatment programs is essential for ensuring families to receive this help that they need. A highly trained infant mental health workforce with the competencies to treat strained infant-parent relationships adds needed value to a seamless service delivery system. Infant mental health is a promising practice that's on a 3 to 4 year trajectory to become an evidence-based model in alignment with both state and federal requirements. With your help to advocate for continued and blended funding for all home visiting programs in Michigan, you will be making a difference for today and the future of Michigan. So I'll end with the same question I began with: what about the baby? And I hope we can answer this question with a clear and strong voice. Thank you.